Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 10. We're now in double digits. Episode number 10 of Nostalgia Talk, and also the very last one of the year 2020. I'm James, and before I start the interview, I just have a few things I want to say. A little shout out to my family in Montreal. They're going into lockdown on Friday, December the 25th, Christmas Day. Wow, that's depressing, going into lockdown on Christmas Day. That really sucks. But yeah, I'm thinking about you guys, but I do have some good news from my family in Montreal. My cousin Jonathan and his wife Margot are expecting a baby. We just heard the other day that Margot is pregnant. So a big congratulations, Jonathan and Margot. I cannot wait until quarantine is over and I can come see you guys in Montreal. And now let's get on with the show. Today on Nostalgia Talk, Ivy Austin. Hey, Ivy.
Hey, James, great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. Now, Ivy she's a singer and actress who's had a history of being on Sesame Street singing a lot of their, pop tunes, kind of. Some of you might remember I've Got a New Way to Walk, Cereal Girl, Kids Just Love to Brush, Stand By Your Can, I'm a Bookworm, Rebel L, the Alphabeto, operatic Alphabeto, Five Waltzing Chairs, One Singular Sensation, and one that's definitely relevant to the weather now, Antarctica.
Yep, that would work for us here in New York right now, and
Yeah.
the snow just hit us. Well, first of all, I have to say I'm honored to be the 2020 finale, and thank you.
And also the very first ever female guest on the show.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this one's for the women.
Yeah, I've had people like and I'll give them all a shout out at the end because this is the very last episode of the year. People like Bob Bergen, Kevin Carlson, Pat Fraley, Patrick Bristow. You are the first female guest, so a big welcome to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'll try and make you proud here. This has been such a strange period that we've all been in, isolating. So I can't think of a nicer way to spend some time today than other than being on this podcast. So again, thank you. What would you? I have a career that's been kind of all over the place. So I welcome you to take me off in any which direction. I listed fabulous questions here, but I'm happy to tell you anything you'd like to know. Well, almost anything.
I'm sure that all those stories will be okay.
Yeah, I think so. We'll keep it all PG.
Yeah, well, I have a bleeper, so if anything does happen, I'm pretty good with that.
You'll save us.
Yeah. So, how did you become interested in singing?
Well, I am one of those kids, and I don't know if that's a phrase that means anything. I know we have a little bit of an age difference here, but think back to A Star is Born, Judy Garland, born in a trunk, born into a theatrical family. My father, Danny Epstein, who you will hear about as we speak more, was a percussionist, and when I was born, he was off playing on the road, playing Broadway shows that were traveling. And my mother and I traveled with my father and these Broadway shows for up until I was about 5 years old. So legend has it that when I was born when I think he was playing in the pit of Most Happy Fella. That's the show that seems to have marked my birth. But the ones that I have memories of traveling with were Flower Drum Song, My Fair Lady, and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. So I grew up, my playground was really the theater. I didn't have that normal childhood of going to playgrounds and just playing with my friends. We were always going from city to city, and I quickly got stars in my eyes, and I was going to be in the theater.
Wow.
That was it. There were no two ways about it. I was going to sing or dance. I was going to star in a Broadway show. Those were all my dreams. And I'm happy to say that a lot of them did come true. So the theater is really in my blood. It really is.
That's very sweet.
Thank you. Someday I hope to write all this down. So this is actually a great start. I had my first ballet lessons in hotel rooms from one of the dancers in the company of My Fair Lady. I remember doing my little ballet bar with her. That's just a graceful little memory that I have. And once we got off the road, I was about 5, and we settled down, sort of, so I could go to school. That's when I started taking ballet lessons, and that eventually, over the years, that led to acting lessons, and then to voice lessons, and all of them at the same time, and then auditioning and getting jobs.
Wow.
So this has been very much an organic thing for me, and theater always has been and always will be in my blood.
Nice. That's very sweet.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, some of your biggest influences were like Judy Garland and Star is Born, so stuff like that.
Well, I would say when I was coming of age and I really started singing, I guess I was probably about 14 when I really discovered that I had the voice. And I would say Barbara Streisand was the most amazing singer I had ever heard, and I'm one of the women that grew up trying to belt out Don't Rain on My Parade like Barbara Streisand did, just burying myself in Funny Girl. So she was a great inspiration. Now that I am, and then, your tastes change. She will always be a great inspiration, but then I woke up to jazz and, of course, Ella. How can you not love
Ella Fitzgerald?
And I love Dinah Watt. There are just so many magnificent singers out there. I've always felt kind of chameleon-like with my voice. So if I hear a style or a particular vintage of song that I'm attracted to, I just try and put myself in that style.
Nice. So, were there, when you were in school, were there any musicals, talent shows, stuff like that? Were you a part of them at all?
Yes, I was a part of them. I guess let's see, when did my school theatrical career probably started in what people call middle school now. It was junior high to us. And I was part of the drama club, and I auditioned for the part of Lola in Damn Yankees, and I got that role, and that was, I guess, a very sexy role for a 7th grader, but what did I know? To me, it was a musical, and I had the time of my life, and then after that, I played Lori in Reserves. Not only did I have braces at that time, they didn't have Invisalign back then. We all had those silver braces, and so did the boy playing Curly. And I just have a memory of the two of us with our braces.
Oh, wow.
Unless I drink that, James. But I do know that I had braces, and I think we had to kiss. That was a big deal.
Holy.
A little peck. No, not like the kind of kisses people do now on stage. You know, an 8th grade kiss. And then after that, I to the High School of Performing Arts, which you might know as the FAME School. And that was on West 46th Street, right in the heart of the theater district, right off Times Square.
Oh, cool.
And I was it was a cool place. And I still have my friends and from that part of my life. That school was not really focused on big productions. We all did big production in our senior year, but it was all about doing the work, all about acting and scene study and voice and diction classes. It was not musically oriented.
Okay.
So there, my experience was we did the play One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh,
and
cool.
I played Nurse Ratched. And one of my big dramatic roles as the evil nurse. I think there is a Ratched show on TV now, right?
If there is, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either. And then when I was in college, I was also in productions. I was not a theater major in college. I studied biology.
What college did you go to?
I went to Colgate in upstate New York.
Okay.
And I always knew that I was going to go back into the theater once I was done with school.
Okay.
But I couldn't stay away from it.
Fair.
I had to get my fix. So I was involved in a couple of the student theater musicals there, playing Adelaide in Guys and Dolls.
Oh, wow.
And, a voice and can develop a cold, the big Adelaide's Lament, the big song. And I played Lola in Demi Yankees again, a little bit older, but still not fully formed woman to be doing such a, it's the character of Lola is a very sexy lady.
I haven't seen Damn Yankees ever.
Oh, well, you've got to, I'm sure you can find a print online somewhere. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. The only Broadway show I've ever seen, because I've been to New York, my family and I went to New York a couple of years ago. The only Broadway show I saw was The Lion King.
The Lion King. And can you believe it? All my years in New York City, that's one I am embarrassed to say I have not seen.
Aw, when I saw it, it was around the time that Frozen was popular, and one of the characters from The Lion King just improvises and starts singing "Let It Go."
Oh, how great! That must have been a blast for you.
So, how did you get involved with Sesame Street? I know that your dad was their music coordinator.
Yes, and okay, when he started with the show, I was already, oh goodness, well, I guess anybody can find out age at this point on the internet, but I was 11 when the show started, so I was, not really, not in the viewer demographic, but my father knew that I, would love to participate, to sing if I could. I don't remember the I remember the first song that I sang in the studio, but I don't remember how old I was. And I just remember when this started, Sesame Street, it was not this mega thing.
Right.
That it is now, right? So my father, but when they needed some kids to sing, my father brought me into the studio. Joe Raposo's kids came in and did some stuff, and then after a while they did hire a vocal contractor to bring in children, teenagers, and then eventually adults. But my dad was always my main line to Sesame Street.
Cute. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will show you. Oh, too bad this is not a video show, but James, you are going to get to see. This is actually a Danny Epstein Muppet that was made for him when he left, when he retired. Here he is with his drumsticks.
That is so cool.
I know. So I'm sorry, listeners at home. I wish I could share this with you, but maybe we'll have another time, or maybe James can take a picture.
Could you send me a picture?
Sure, I will.
Okay, cool.
Of course.
So for any of the listeners who are looking at the image right there, that comes from Ivy herself, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to share this fabulous
Is that from the
Muppet.
Is that from the Muppet Whatnot workshop from FAO Schwartz?
I think it's directly from the Muppet, from wherever the Muppets are made.
Okay.
I don't know which puppet builder made this.
Okay.
But it's the real deal.
That's such a cool thing. I never knew that that was ever made. That is really wicked.
Yeah, it was just a special thing. It's not like a limited series where you can get Muppets of everybody that ever worked at Sesame Street. This is just a really beautiful and sentimental thing. A real big honor. He was absolutely thrilled. So.
Wow.
Keep that right here for inspiration.
Awesome. Now, did you ever get to meet Jim Henson?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of working with Jim. I think the first time I met him was in the recording studio, and I was singing backup for Caribbean Amphibian. Yes! And I had the honor of working with the original Muppet guys, with not only Jim Henson, but Richard Hunt, and Jerry Nelson. They were just an amazing group of people, and with Fran Brill, one of the, maybe she was the only female Muppeteer at that time.
There was her. There was Cheryl Blaylock, Pam Arciero.
Oh yeah, but later on. But I'm just talking about way back.
Like when it started.
Yeah. But yes, Jim was a lovely man, and I met him a couple of times in the studio on a professional basis, and he was just so generous and supportive and kind.
Nice. Did you meet Frank Oz?
Oh, yes, I did. And I got to work with Frank a few times as well. And he is pretty extraordinary.
Jim and Frank are my heroes, like in performing and film. Like a lot of Frank Oz's films I watch for inspiration.
Yeah, he's beyond the beyond extraordinary.
Since you mentioned Caribbean amphibian, I have a. It's kind of funny. I have a talking Kermit the Frog doll in my room. I don't have it right on the table with me right now, but basically, if you squeeze it, it sings Caribbean amphibian.
No way! I didn't even know people do that song! Caribbean amphibian, that's alright. It's even hard to say now.
Yeah,
Well, I love that.
that doll is actually how that doll is how I used to wake up my sister.
Too much.
So, did you ever consider puppeteering on Sesame Street in addition to doing character voices?
For a minute and a half, I'd say, yes. I was terrible at it. I was invited to one of the early Muppet workshops. I guess, I think maybe I had just gotten out of college. But anyway, from time to time, they would hold workshops for people who were, who I guess who wanted to be Muppeteers, or for those people they thought might have the gift, but I did not, and that's okay. The people that operate these puppets or bring life. So when I think of the puppeteering workshops, of course, I immediately think about Carol Spinney, Big Bird.
Yeah.
Another legend, such a gifted, beautiful man who I also had the pleasure of working with many times over the years. And I don't know whether this is common knowledge, maybe it is, but Big Bird has a TV monitor strapped to his stomach.
Yeah. Carol Spinney called that an electronic bra.
Yes, exactly. So that was when I was invited to this Muppet workshop, that was the first time I realized that you're looking down at a monitor, but you're doing everything in opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain didn't work that way. It was, I guess if I really, really stuck it out, maybe there would have been a chance for me, but it wasn't my gift. I will leave the Muppeteering to the Muppeteers.
I just want to clarify something for the listeners. I've had people on the show who have done Muppet performing, and when I talk to my friends about some of the people that I've chatted with who are Muppet performers, like Peter Linz, Matt Vogel, Steve Whitmire, Marty Robinson, a lot of them are like, "Oh, it's so cool that you talk to the people who do the voices," and that seems to be the key word, the voice. It's usually the Muppet performers always do both puppeteering and voice. Ivy is one of the very few exceptions.
And that has been an honor to be a kind of a Muppet ringer, as we would call me. Early on, there were not a lot of females that were in the studio doing voices. There was Fran, and she was Fran Brill, and she was Prairie Dawn. But there was opportunity when there were, when characters were written where they needed a female to sing the song. Well, yes, thanks to nepotism and my dad being there, I got dibs on a lot of these things. And I really went into the studio in the same way the musicians did, just as a studio musician, a studio singer, not any background on the characters or anything. Most likely I would have heard a very rough demo of whoever it was that wrote the song. A rough demo with piano, just so I could where the song was going, and perhaps we thought about a key that I'd sing it in, but that's really it. So I'd come to the studio with a general idea of the song
Mm-hmm.
and just wing it. It's not like there was any discussion with Muppeteers about who she was,
Mm-hmm.
or I would just go on instinct. If there were any directions, of course, yes, I would follow them. But generally, I would wing it with some sort of wacky interpretation
Mm-hmm.
of my own.
Interesting. Do you remember the very first performance that you ever did for Sesame Street?
The first time I went into the studio, I guess I was a teenager. I sang a song called I'm Pretty, which was for a film piece and about a baby seal, I believe. But then, and it was a song that Joe Raposo had written, but eventually he wound up recording it himself. I guess they wanted a male voice. But that was my first endeavor, was something like, look at
The
the
sky, look at the sea.
look at the sea, look at the clouds, and then look at
Me, I'm pretty.
What I am is pretty. How do you know that, James?
I've been watching Sesame Street ever since 1999, and I love all of the old, well, not old, retro Sesame Street stuff, 70s, 80s, 90s. And actually, both of my parents were young children when Sesame Street first started. So if I'm watching one of the retro bits, my parents will walk by, they're like, hey, I remember that.
Yeah, right. Right. Wow. Well, that's amazing. You're awesome. That's incredible. And somehow, and you seem to have all of this stuff in your head, all these tunes.
Oh yeah, I have
You're like
I have a very good memory, which makes a lot of my friends very jealous.
wow. Good for you.
I do actually have, this is kind of interesting, and if any of my classmates or friends or family members are listening to this, then you're already aware of this. But I have, I remember we were talking about my friend's birthday. It was, he asked me how old I was, and I said, I'm 19. I'm 21 now, but at the time I was 19. And he said, when did you turn 19? I said, my birthday is in March. This was in 2018, and right after that he's like, okay, cool, my birthday's in November. I was like, well, what's the date? Maybe as a class we'll all celebrate. And he said the 24th. I'm like, rats, that's a Saturday. And he just looked at everyone else like, what? So I have that talent.
Oh.
And this is actually the first time I've ever went public with it.
Wow. So you are a savant of sorts. Wow. So that's really extraordinary.
Mm. So, do you remember the very first performance on Sesame Street that ever aired?
Oh, no. No, you got me there.
Okay.
You know, I confess that now you're asking me about the first performance of mine
Yep.
that ever aired? Well, yeah. That's tough. Over the years, I did so many things for Sesame Street, either as lead vocals or background vocals, or just coming in to kind of, give things an extra little zip or punch. Some of the things I never even saw, became like my work,
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go in, I'd go to the studio, and I never had any kind of schedule in terms of, I was never given any kind of programming schedule, so I would know that such and such a performance that I just recorded is actually going to be on the air on such and such
Oh,
date.
wow. They never alerted you. Wow.
Oh, no, never. No, maybe had I thought about it and asked, perhaps, but also the way that they developed the shows, They did a lot of segments, and since you're a watcher, you know, in the early shows, they would kind of repent and put old film strips into new shows, and another animated piece might go into a show that's run several times already. So there were a
Right.
lot of building blocks, and whenever I did turn the show on, I was utterly amazed
Mm-hmm.
that that a song that I had participated in was actually on the air.
Right. So, as I was saying before, you only just did the voices for the characters, and someone else will be doing the puppetry. And I actually read online that David Rudman was doing the Cereal Girl and Hammy Swynet. And any listeners that are retro like me probably know exactly what that's a reference to. Did you usually prefer to have a certain person doing the puppetry? Was it decided that somebody was going to be puppeteering for you, or?
Oh, no, 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 no. It's the Muppets. I always felt like, just talent for hire. I'd come in and do a recording. So my creative input was always just in the studio in terms of what I would do with my voice. And hopefully I was able to give them something that was inspiring. Then once in a while, I would go out to the sound stage
Mm-hmm.
to see the Muppets give life with the puppets to the recording. So I would go out to Kaufman Astoria Studios. Well, for instance, there, like when the Oinker sisters became pretty popular, and then Diana Krall did.
A fellow Canadian.
Yeah, she's amazing. And Nathan Lane also sang with the Oinker sisters. So on those days, I went to the soundstage. It was very exciting. We had already pre-recorded the background Oinker sisters, and then I went to the studio to see the Muppeteers do the Three Sisters, and then, as I recall, I think that Diana Krall and Nathan Lane, in their own respective versions, I believe they performed live.
Okay.
Along with the music track and the background vocals, while the Muppeteers sort of thing. And I do have some photos. I will try and dig up one or two of those and send those along.
Please do. Yeah, I'd love to see them. Was Nathan Lane funny? Because I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He's hilarious.
He was amazing. We didn't really get to chat it up. Studio time. It's work,
Right.
and he was. I just really came there as just to watch, to enjoy, just to be an audience member that day. I mean, just to stand around basically and take it all in.
Yeah, I one of my favorite movies from my childhood is Stuart Little, and he was in that as Snowbell.
I love Stuart Little. And I love Nathan Lane.
Oh yeah, I could rub your tummy. I'd like to rub it from the inside. So, did you ever get to develop a voice for any of the puppet characters, like Oinker Sisters, the Cereal Girl, a lot of the singers in like Rebel L, Kids Just Love to Brush? Did you get to have a look at the puppet to develop a voice?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. No, it was really, there would always be a music director. It would depend on who wrote the song, or who was music directing the vocal session, and I would just take whatever direction I was given, whether we were supposed to rock out, or whether it was supposed to be a Broadway sound, or we're supposed to keep it cool and jazzy, whatever it was. If I was doing, if it was a solo vocal, I just had more leeway in terms of just going for it and singing out, belting out those money notes. But for background vocals, those are always much more specific,
Mm-hmm.
and you honor the direction of the music director or conductor.
Nice. Yeah, I did notice a little bit of some different voices in some of the performance, like especially in "Stand by Your Can" and what was another one? "We're All Growing," I think it was. Those were like country songs, basically.
Oh, okay. So now I'm embarrassed to say we're all growing. I'm gonna have to go look that one up now because that one's not coming.
I'll put a link in the corner of the video.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I did here. I did bring Hammy Swinette back to life at the Museum of the Moving Image.
Cool.
We had a Sesame Street celebration. Or was it the year before? I don't know. Time is just all crazy mixed up right now during that
It's on
pandemic.
your
last year.
Your performance of that song is actually on YouTube.
What? Stand by Your Camp?
Yep. At the Museum of the Moving
my.
Image.
You don't miss a trick.
I guess not, huh?
I'm probably just telling you everything you know already. You're the best. You really are. You're something.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have any particular favorite performance from Sesame Street that you've done? Because there have been a lot.
Well, I have one that I'm super proud of that a lot of people don't know about, but you probably will. My Sublime Miss M, which was a takeoff on Bette Midler as the divine Miss M, and it's all about the letter M.
Oh, wow.
And I tried to do my best Bette Midler as a Muppet imitation. Because I knew I couldn't really imitate Bette Midler, because, I mean, she's just fabulous and wild and wonderful, but I tried to give it the essence of Bette Midler and kind of infuse that into my Muppet vocal. So now that's some homework for you.
What, look up the Sublime Miss M?
Yes.
I'm familiar with it. I don't know if it aired when I was a kid. It might have been a little bit before my time. I do watch all the retro stuff, so I'll have to check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, I can't. I have no idea when I actually recorded that. But yes, I'm super proud of that, and I also loved the Oinker Sister recordings. I'm very proud to be known as Suey Oinker, the lead vocalist of the International Singing Pigs. So yes, I Got a New Way to Walk is one of my faves. And then there are a number of later Oinker Sisters. We have an alphabet song. That's a lot of fun.
Is it the Boogie Woogie Piggies?
There's yes, the Boogie Woogie Piggies.
I have a VHS tape that has that.
Yeah. So actually, what I did a while ago, put together all of the Sesame Street recordings that I could remember, the ones that are on YouTube. So I strung them together all in one place, and I think there's a grouping that I did of lead vocals, and then a grouping of background vocals.
There's one character I remember you did on a Sesame Street special who wasn't singing, was talking, but I think the voice was still dubbed by you. It was in the New Year's Eve special.
Yes, and you're gonna have to tell me the name of the character.
Oh wow. Tita, I think.
Tita, yes, Tita. But I haven't listened to that in a very long time.
Okay. Is that the only time you ever performed a Muppet who wasn't singing?
Perhaps. Yeah, when I think of my recordings, they all, in my brain, seem to be attached to music. Um, yeah, that must have been a very special thing.
Yeah.
I have a lot to do after this podcast, don't I?
Seems so. So, what have you been up to recently in terms of singing and theater? Are you still into that stuff?
I will always be into it. I'll never say die. Even if I don't perform, but I can't even say that. No, I'll always be what I call a theater lifer. I don't know that it's fair to even talk about anything during this pandemic in terms of, I haven't been active vocally, professionally, in the theater biz or recording business during the pandemic, but I still, if something comes across my plate, if there's a concert that comes my way, or I do, or an occasional voiceover for commercial, so I still am connected. I have, before the pandemic, I was actually creating a little show with a partner of mine, and he and I had strung together several songs and stories about our lives that we wanted to share. And he's somebody that I go way back with in the business. So I'm always trying to do something creative. I'd also been dabbling on the producing side, and I was learning the business of producing from two Broadway producers, Bruce Robert Harris and Jack W. Batman, at a company called Sunny Spot Productions. And I had been working with them for about 5 years up until the pandemic, learning the biz, trying to produce a couple of tiny ones of my own, and also producing Broadway events, producing concerts, and also like opening night Broadway parties, star-studded events, mammoth events. That was very exciting. So that was a very creative endeavor for me. My new thing, people say, "What, are you giving up show business?" And I say, no, never. I'm always trying to do something else to integrate into my life as a performing artist. A few years ago, I became interested in helping people with psychological issues, with couples issues and family issues. So I just completed a master's in marriage and family therapy.
Nice.
Just finished that. Thank you. I just finished that 3 nights ago, so I'm still flying high.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's terribly exciting. So I can be now the singing psychotherapist. But and while I was doing that, I was trying very much to integrate who I am and the work I've done as a performing artist into my work as, in the helping professions. So, for instance, I did a thesis on women in the performing arts and particular things that they go through that cause problems. I just was studying expressive therapies, which is the use of art and music and dance and drama, helping people with psychological issues. So I'm just hoping that I can not only help whomever comes my way in terms of individual therapy or couples counseling, family counseling, but I would love to work with performing artists because I get them. I understand where people are coming from. I just love the creative mind, and I
Nice.
love being among artists.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you're a very talented person. From what I've watched over the years of you on Sesame Street, I.
Uh, well, thank you. Um, so I'm always trying to figure out, new ways of mixing things up. Whether it's theater or radio, or just in the recording booth. I'm just trying to um, keep the creative wheels turning, and this is, it's who I am.
Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Let's see. I think, well, you know what? I'd like to, I know you gave a shout out earlier to some folks, and I'd like to give a shout out to the people that I worked with at NPR and from my Garrison Keeler days. You're all a big part of my life. And to all my friends at Sesame Street, and a shout out to anyone and everyone and everywhere who had who still is interested in the show Raggedy Ann, which that might be a whole other conversation, which I think is gonna become which is slowly becoming a bit of a cult classic. So it's just all you listeners out there, hear what it's all about. Listeners and people who love the arts, who love to be in the arts, who love to listen to other people's stories. We're all in this together, and I wouldn't be anyone in the arts without the people on the other end who are out there listening.
Aw. Well, I want to give a little bit of a shout out too. First of all, to the listeners who have been listening to Nostalgia Talk ever since it launched on October the 21st. Thank you. If you're a friend, family member, maybe even somebody that I don't know, it's still awesome that a lot of the people I've had on the show have made you feel nostalgic. I kind of started this, it's kind of interesting. When lockdown here in Nova Scotia happened, all the TV stations were running all of the nostalgic TV shows. What was there? Fairly Odd Parents, Hey Arnold, Animaniacs, which just got rebooted. There was a show called Marvin that unfortunately a lot of people have forgotten about, but I enjoyed that when I was a teenager. Some of the shows I mentioned weren't, I wasn't even born when they started, so it was kind of nice to get a little bit reintroduced to some of them, because I grew up with a few of them. And I've been attending these Muppet events over Zoom, where I see all these people who had some kind of association with Henson, Muppets, Sesame Street, people like puppeteers, writers, just talking about their work. And that made me feel nostalgic, because a lot of it I grew up with. And so then I decided I wanted to talk about it. And so Bob Bergen was the first person who agreed to be on the show. And then more people have kind of come since. So a big shout out to the 10 guests I've had on the show in 2020. Mike Peterson, Kevin Carlson, Ron Doucette, Tim Gosley, Pat Fraley, Patrick Bristow, Matt Hill, Bob Bergen, Joe Matthew, and Ivy Austin. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to agree to chat with me over the last few months that I've been doing Nostalgia Talk and share your stories with me and with our listeners. And for anyone wondering, yes, this is the last Nostalgia Talk of the year 2020, but it is not the last one ever. I have some guests coming up next year in 2021. I have some guests that I'd like to invite, and I'm also interested to know from the listeners, what makes you feel nostalgic? And let me be more specific. If there's anyone whose work makes you feel nostalgic, let me know, and I'll try to get in touch with them and get them on the show. So, in the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Festivus, whatever it is that you celebrate, and Happy New Year!
Here, here. Right there with you. Wishing you all peace, joy, and a much better year ahead.
You took
Happy 2021, everybody.
You took the words right out of my mouth. So that's all for today on Nostalgia Talk. Peace!